Welcome back. It's time for Press Review. We take a look at what's making headlines and analyze it accordingly. And I'm joined by Ambrose Wedder, Canon Ambrose Wedder, who's also a lawyer. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Now, the biggest story today that's cutting across, or if you take a look at the Standard, the Daily Nation, the Business Today, is that Al-Shabaab attack. And we have various headlines surrounding that story. The first one on the Daily Nation is how Shabaab plotted raid on military camp and attackers emerged from nearby forests, cut power supply before gaining access to the naval base through an unmanned side of Manda airstrip. And we're being given the timeline, and the picture there is that aerial shot of that base that after the attack. And then we're told more on the Standard about it. At the top mast of the paper, we're told puzzle of terror raid on KDF U.S. base repulsed. Gallant Kenyan and U.S. forces beat back dawn attack on joint base at Manda in Lamu and kill 5 Shabaab militants. But then we have the same story on the Business Daily newspaper telling us Shabaab attacked joint U.S. U.S. Kenya base in Lamu. So this is a big story and naturally a very great incident, and lives were lost, but also there's that repulsion that we're being told about on the Standard. What do you make of this story?
Thank you so much, and good morning, viewers. I think I wish you a prosperous 2020. Although we have started with a terror attack, it is when you attack the military base, it just shows you how vulnerable you and me we are against this menace of terror attack.
Right.
But I also think that if the joint U.S. and Kenyan military would be hit at their base, it means their level of intelligence gathering is much, much, much lower and needs to be looked into.
Right.
And I really think that is unfortunate.
And it's important to know that this was the second attack.
Yes.
After that, the other one when locals in a bus were shot at. Now, I mean, it's seemingly a trend. What do you think needs to be done? You're not a professional in security, but from your point of view.
It's not about security. It is about, you know what makes people be able to go and kill others, become Al-Shabaab, is because they radicalize themselves. In other words, they say that there are things you get into your heart and you believe them, and they regulate your conduct. That is why you can be told that if you do this and you die, you will have done a good job, either for yourself or for God or for who. So we must look at the root. And the root is to look at the things that makes people radicalize, what makes people feel like, okay, where we have reached, I'd rather kill them or kill myself, or all of us. That is not a scientific thing. That is a thing that goes into the heart, into the spirit. And the actions that make people radicalize, we need to look at it. For instance, if you look at what has happened in Iraq and in Iran, these are the things that make people really mad. And some people find they're so desperate that they say, let's die with everybody. There are also some Kenyans who feel so down, so out, that they'd rather join the Al-Shabaab and then they come and kill people because of bitterness. Bitterness can be a very, very dangerous thing. So we need as a society to look at these things, address them. Some people are just depressed. Some people are they're mad. You know, depression is a politer word for madness. And everybody is at a stage of madness.
Right.
So there are some who are now extreme. They're the ones who do these things.
Who fall prey to these people, and perhaps a lot of young people looking for a way out. And when somebody
you are promised, I'm told, I don't know, but I'm told that some people are told that if you blow up yourself, there are 9 virgins waiting for you in wherever. And I don't know, but you get to believe it. Like we have been told, you given birth and then you are given a birth date. Your mother or your father tells you, you are born on this date. And you just believe it. Even if they were wrong, even if they got the hours wrong or the day wrong. So these are the areas we need to address as the human race.
Now, on the other side, as I was reading the news earlier on, what came out was that there seems to be a problem with our churches. And I mean, there's so many wrangles, there are people killing each other in the church, and there are people fighting one another, there are factions within churches. And this is being reflected on the Daily Nation, where there's a story that we also covered earlier on. We're told a pastor kills wife, then self during church service. And a somber start to the year for faithfuls as a man of God slit his throat after fatally stabbing his wife, and leaves a suicide note detailing their marital woes. And of course, they basically had their own marital problems, but the basis of that, or another issue was that they all wanted to lay claim to the church that they seemingly had leadership of. So what's your take? You're a canon.
Yes.
I mean, what is happening to the Kenyan church?
The church is one big institution, one big foundation, I'll call it one big company started by our Lord Jesus Christ. And along the way, people have come up.
Yeah.
Contrary to our thinking that the devil is black and is having black teeth and is dripping with blood, the word tells us that he was a very smart guy. He was in the throne of God. Therefore, people can come and then they cover themselves and they say, look, I am a man of God, I am in charge, I am whatever, I can wear big robes, I can speak good English, and I can take all the titles, you can call me canon. But because people have missed two things, people will never tell. The first thing you will do is the king himself, who is God Almighty, has always told us, please read my word. He gave us a book.
Yeah.
He said, just read this. If you want to know me, read this. And then number two, he said, if you want to know my people, don't listen to what they say alone. Don't see the way they are fat. Don't look at their suits like me.
Right.
Look at their fruits. You look at my fruit. If you want to really know that I represent God, a priest means a representative.
Yes.
If you want to know that a clergy or somebody is representing God, not only do you look at other things, but the main thing is their fruit. I cannot be on one side telling you to have love, to be love, forgiveness. And yet, if you look at my steps,
right,
you can see that I'm sleeping with the neighbor's wife, I'm doing all these things. So people are just blind because they don't read the word, and then they don't look. Somebody comes and you can clearly see this one is not representing God.
Yes.
This one is representing himself. So there are a team of people who represent themselves. To them, the church is a business because people are vulnerable. You go and hypnotize them. You go and tell them lofty things which they don't want to read for themselves, and then they believe you, and they give you their money. But as long as you don't have the peace that surpasses all understanding in your heart, that is how you'll end up with a suicide. Because here you are, you're a pastor, meanwhile, your wife is also a pastor, but behind you are hypocrites. A hypocrite is not a bad word. A hypocrite is a word for somebody who has two faces. You are not integrated. You have no integrity. At one side, you are praising dominoes for whiskers on one side, but on the other side, you are also sleeping in your neighbor's house. That is, you are also stealing here and there. So the hypocrites seem to be functioning and doing very well in church.
But Mr.
They do
Weda,
drama, yes.
Yeah, when we talk about this, even when you're looking at social media, every now and then we are treated to videos of a certain church, I will not name it, of a pastor doing all sorts of things, insulting the congregation, even on a certain surface level, before even reading. Just common sense would tell you this is wrong. Why is it that Kenyans are so desperate to follow certain leaders, even when it is so obvious that when he punches you or hits you on the head or calls you sheep or something insulting, you should know that this surely cannot be good.
There is what is called the hypnosis. You get into somebody's heart, somebody's spirit. And there are many ways of getting into it. One of the easiest, the commonest ways is that every person wants to know and control the future.
Yeah.
You want to know what will happen the next second, tomorrow, and next year. That's the part humanity cannot tell. It's only God himself who can tell. So if you have then arranged yourself to be able to tell people their future, I can prophesy for you. I can. That is why you see every congregation, every gathering, even every church gathering is about miracle service, is about miracle crusade, is about prophecy.
Yeah.
It is, and healing. It is never about learning. If you put people in your tea, they'll tell you they're bored. But if you say, come for a miracle today.
Yeah.
So they arrange these things and they arrange drama. So if you are able to get into the people's spirit through hypnosis, through promising them and trying to tell them you can see the future and you can tell them, they'll believe you.
Right.
I can tell you here that I can see that somebody in KTN, the way they're looking for you, the Lord has told me that somebody is fighting you. And obviously, you know, as you work here, they are your friends and they are your enemies.
Yeah.
So immediately your mind goes and says, yeah, he has seen it. He knows. That is Gitonga himself fighting me. Then you say we can pray over it and the Lord will be in it. Now, once you are hypnotized, you then believe and we go along. So I can abuse you in the process. You never tell because you've already believed. That's why we tell people, please, if you go to a church or you listen to a preacher who is what I call emotional preaching that does not deliver teaching, he is not representing God.
Right.
Jesus Christ was a teacher. He was not shouting, yep. He was teaching one by one. And the questions, you realize most of these people, they don't tolerate questions.
Right.
They just talk. So it is a process of hypnosis. That's why you will see some people, they'll play music, they'll insult people, they'll kill people through road accident, and they'll never apologize, and people still go back because they pretend to be able to tell the future.
Okay.
You go to secular churches like the Anglican Church, the Catholic Church, some of this prophecy selling is not there. But you go to these other churches that people keep and whatever, it is all about miracles, prophecy, healing, and yep, and shouting and jumping, but no teaching.
So unfortunately, that's a lot of people are falling prey to it. And if you take a look at the paper, that story is cutting across from the Daily Nation, it's on the Standard, it's all over the news. And it's just a reflection of the many more, I think, that we don't even get to report because you can only say so much about what's happening in the country. But let's shift gears to the political stories that are making headlines. Now, today we are told ODM, the Raila-led ODM Orange Democratic Movement yesterday has rubbished revelations by British data mining firm Cambridge Analytica over Kenya's, this is on the top page, over Kenya's 2013-2017 election. And a quote here has said, "We refuse to work with that evil firm." This is what a sentiment coming from the ODM. Now, what's your take on this latest story that is involving controversial Cambridge Analytica?
I do not have details about that firm. It may have its own problems or its own tricks, its own abracadabra it would pull over election. But I also know that 2013 elections, the outcome, the ODM brigade had their own propaganda. 2017, their own propaganda. This propaganda that they never lose the elections is always stolen. That propaganda has been sold all over the years, and people have lost their lives. Some are now being buried because they bought that. So I think sometimes when these people come and say, no, even if there was stealing, you lost like this, they will reject that because they want to hypnotize their own supporters that we want this thing and it was stolen. We want it, and I keep on saying this is how you people end up wasting their lives over the years, believing a false story, a lie. And I remember even yesterday I was talking to some people, and they genuinely believed that the 2017 elections, President Uhuru rigged it against ODM. And I asked them, how do you explain that Jubilee has more MCAs, more governors, more MPs, more... How do you explain that?
Right.
And no. He says, we know you whether you are just the other side. I said, it is this sickness that makes you not prepare well because you believe. And if you believe they are always stealing, give up.
Yeah.
Because that kind of fear based on lies. So I think here now the farm may have revealed things that show that they didn't win and they don't like it. The farm may also have his own difficulties, his own problems. But if you look at it objectively as a human being,
Right.
you can make basic conclusions.
Right. And now, still on political related news, we have Miguna Miguna declaring that he is coming home, and we had the president alluding to this in an earlier a few days ago at a funeral, and we have lawyers wanting state to obey court order to allow him into the country without any conditions. And I mean, what's your take on this? And obviously, he's not coming. I mean, I don't want to speculate, but he just coming to sit and relax, going by what he says on Twitter, and he's not going to be a quiet, you know.
It's called General Miguna Miguna.
Yes.
I think here on Miguna's case, we have really gotten it wrong.
Yeah.
It was a small thing that was mishandled.
Got
now
out
it has
of
become
hand.
big and is outside. It's very embarrassing for us as a country to have one born in Kano somewhere near here. Then we bring in linguistic and legal jargons to do certain things.
Yes.
It was very, very, very wrong. And out of that mistake, he can build himself. Out of this tweet, he can build himself that one day when he comes here, he sweeps everybody.
Yeah.
So I think, and I want to speak directly to my president, His Excellency President Uhuru, Your Excellency, please ensure that these jokes come to an end. Let Miguna come back. Let him enter the country. He is a Kenyan. You will see after a short while there'll be nothing.
Yeah.
But if we keep on doing a abracadabra, he will gain sympathy, he will gain weight. Now, if you look at his Twitter handle, he posts even insults, and there are 2 million people responding to it.
Yes.
That is an indication that is making impact. Why is it making impact? We went and demolished his house. We made him look so big, yet he's just one of us. So I think that that case was mishandled. Secondly, disobeying of various state court orders. You don't take up somebody's passport, then you tell him that you don't have a passport, or you apply again. There are some of these things. He comes in, then you say, if you are going to leave the country, if you are going to get a passport now, you are down here, just apply. If you don't apply, use your Canadian passport. But doing all this abracadabra gives him credence. And I know he will refuse certain things. For instance, if he is coming, he will come. And even if he has the Canadian passport, he will hide it. And then he says, I'm coming to Kenya as a Kenyan to create a scene.
Obviously.
Yet all of us know when you come in, sometimes you are processed. But if they know Miguna is coming, they just allow him. If I was in charge, I would have said, oh, but Miguna, you are not going to allow you. We will not allow you to come. We will arrest you. And I know he will come. The day he arrives, he comes and says, oh, General Miguna, karibu, karibu, karibu. The matter will be over.
Resolved, yeah?
Yes.
I mean, he has not forgotten about what happened to him, and he said on Twitter that you dragged me and illegally forced me out of Kenya on March 29, 2018 with no papers except an illegally booked air ticket. I'll use legally issued air tickets on January the 7th, 2020, return my valid Kenyan passport. He has been asking for this for a while, and also he keeps reminiscing of how he was locked in a small room for 72 hours. He's calling it a toilet, according to this article. I mean, how do you think this could have been handled before even he went out, you know?
I think we should not have held him there.
Yeah.
We should not have kept it there.
Yeah.
He should have just been allowed to come in. A passport is for identity purposes and so on. His passport was, I think, the issue came because an allegation was being said that he had renounced his Kenyan citizenship and so on, which is neither here nor there. Then the court went and pronounced itself on it.
Yes.
Now that complicated the whole situation. It would have been a lot easier. But then ego came in. He had gone to swear in Honorable Raila, and that really enraged government and those of us who are on Jubilee side. Then along the way, Honorable Raila also disowned him because now he went and they're talking with the president. So he found himself in an island and he's very bitter and depressed over it, which in my view is rightly so. If we continue it, then we'll be continued disobedience of a court order. We'll be continuing to build him for no reason. I really think that to diffuse my brother, the Janyando, is to allow him to come into the country, let him walk around, and then he will see that there is nothing much. It's just about nation building, the mistakes that have been there, and some of the insults that he normally directs at the president and the family. is not at his level. It should have been left for somebody who is walking naked in the streets. But him is Dr. Miguna, educated, he's worked with the government. So there are certain things that if you don't say, even if you feel like saying them, you don't say. So even him also, I would appeal to him, have a bit of decency, have a bit of decent language, even if you are angry. Have a bit of decent language. There's a language you can't address at the president. There's a language you can't address at Honorable Raila Odinga, the deputy president, and all these people, including the gate man or the gate woman. There's a language you say now with my level of education and sophistication, I cannot use. So I would urge you and continue praying for you that the Lord touch your heart so that you change your language. That language, I know is my friend, but I don't approve of it.
That
it is wrong.
To me, points to frustration, and I wonder, and perhaps he's resorting those means of communication because he is unable to actually do anything, being the position that he is, having been barred from the country, so or not having his proper, papers to get into the country. Would he be wrong to seek legal redress for his frustration or for what he feels?
I think he has sought legal redress, and the court has pronounced itself.
No, in terms of the papers he had, but
the frustrations that may be having. You see, they may have. What happened was wrong.
Yes.
But I don't think it's as wrong as even what happened to Honorable Raila Odinga being detained for 9 years. I don't think it is as wrong as what happened to Charles Rubia and the late Stanley Njindo Matiba. They almost lost their lives. But when they came out, they didn't insult the president's mother. They didn't insult the people. You face your enemies. If Honorable General Miguna has a problem, he has a problem with President Uhuru, he has a problem with Honorable Raila. Those two, mainly. I do not think he would have a problem with the gracious lady, the first lady, Miguna. A lady who has played her role, her life in a very gracious, honorable manner. I really don't see where I would fault the lady. Even if we fought Ngumi with President Uhuru, I would not allude to her because this is a lady who is honorable. So including some of these people, that is very wrong. People are not even on social media. The president's mother is a grandmother, is a great-grand, and a first lady, and a widow. There are many things that goes that when you even want to insult her, you say it is not right. And coming from the Luo nation, we are taught and we are not allowed to do that. So that bitterness that allows you to insult her. You take even the first lady, Mama Ngina Kijata. She is so gracious that I don't see how you'd go and insult her. If you take the deputy president's wife, Rachel, they are so gracious. They are so nice people that even if you have a problem with Honorable Ruto, you can't go to her. There are people that is a no-go zone as a country, as a culture, and building a foundation. For that, I tell my brother Miguna, we love you so much, but when you have your tiff with Honorable Raila, you can't insult Mama Ida. You can't even you have a tiff with President Uhuru, you can't insult the wife, you can't insult the mother. That is very wrong. When you have a problem with Honorable William Ruto, you can't insult the wife, and then you can't purport to talk about the children.
Right.
We men, let me say, we are parents by faith. We are parents by faith. We are told this is your son or daughter, and you say hallelujah. We take care of these children on behalf of God. So nobody should come and tell us this one is this one is that. That is not our business. God gives you children and you say praise the Lord. You raise them up. Whether you sired them biologically or you didn't, that is not, and it is not for a fellow man to come and try to allude to that. That is between their mother and God. That is it. So there are things that I plead with my brother Miguna. Please don't say those things. Don't go into that. Don't type it.
He's doing himself a disservice.
Big disservice. Yeah, we deserve kiboko in the traditional sense.
Okay, now let's still on politics. We have another story that's on the top page of the Standard, and on page 10, we're told Jubilee election sets up Uhuru-Ruto allies clash. Now, party elections with Jubilee scheduled to for the end of March could mark beginning of a political face-off between the president and his deputies, allies rather, who are plotting to take control. And there's more right here. And we have Secretary General Raphael Tuju having been quoted saying, as a party, we are managing a political transition according to the 2010 Constitution. We have to maneuver it with calmness. We need to consult each other instead of confronting one another. And as you can see, various politicians are pictured there, having been quoted in the article. And, you know, we've always been talking about on a national level and now on a party level, these allies between Uhuru's allies and Ruto's allies forever clashing. It remains to be said whether they're actually speaking for their principles or rather just for
I don't know, like when you say Honorable Moses Kuria, is he a Ruto ally or a Uhuru ally? Because at one time he breathes hot on behalf of the president,
yes.
At another time on behalf of the deputy. Now he can also breathe it hot on behalf of Honorable Raila. What I know is that if you are to ask the deputy president in the face and say, Deputy President, you are a person who is professing faith, tell us, do you love the Secretary General? I am sure if he's going to tell you that the first person will ensure is voted out is Honorable Tuju, because they have had their tiffs. And they have had their tiffs because maybe Honorable Tuju is also the typical Luo man and also the side that brought him. So there are people, but whether there are people who are in various teams. There's also somebody who wants to take control,
yes.
Because Jubilee is a big party. It has a lot of money. It has a lot of support. It has power. So people want to control it. So the deputy president, to ensure that he does not find himself partyless towards elections, would want to take control of Jubilee. Right. Control in such a way that a Secretary General cannot refuse to sign your nomination form and you're out. And the time can come when he says, so he would want his allies, people he can trust. Just like the president trusted Honorable Tuju, he knows Tuju can not refuse to sign his nomination paper. Right. So that is the deputy president's side, planning ahead. And you plan ahead by trying to install people you trust.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, we are told right here by Kimilili, Member of Parliament, Dinos Baraza, he is speaking quite confidently on behalf of Dr. Ruto's camp, saying that he has the numbers to take over key positions in the party, and he stressed that a majority of politicians who were involved in the merger of the 13 political parties to form Jubilee are in Ruto's camp. Do you agree?
I don't know what Honorable Didymus Baraza is talking about. Maybe he should have described the kofia on his head. It is not, Honorable Tuju is not Secretary General because of anybody's numbers.
Yes.
So what is it telling us? These party elections, they will be a hoax. If President Uhuru is in charge, his allies will be in charge. If it's like a company,
yes.
If they want a CEO of this nature. So if Honorable Didymus thinks that he will go and gather people whose parties had been dissolved, then he puts them in a corner and they do it. There will be nothing like that.
Yeah.
There will be jostling and arrangements. TNA went on like that. It was not about elections.
Yeah.
Jubilee officials, it's not about elections. I don't know where the Honorable Didymus is believing that there will be. You look at even ODM, my friend Sufuna, he's the Secretary General, my younger brother Safuna. He's the Secretary. He was not elected anyway, but he'll tell you we have the numbers.
Yes.
You take the chair lady or the chairman, we have the numbers. These parties are like quasi-private enterprises. Those who call the shots are their owners. If you are going to lead it, if they love you, they will lead it. Don't be surprised if you woke up and you are told, whether is the Secretary General Jubilee, and you congratulate me. And if you come here, I'll tell you I was elected by the Executive Council. The Executive Council is either the President or the Deputy President. If I go to ODM and I want to be Secretary General, I say, this is a party of Nyanyumbani. I will not go and mobilize people in Kwale and Wajir. I will go and talk to Baba himself. I say, Baba, I will make a better Secretary General. And there will be some ceremony, some kind of a wedding that makes me. So Didymus is talking like he has just come from Congo or Ghana. Yet he is in this party and he knows about it.
That's how it works. Now let's shift gears to, education, and this is the top story on the Standard. We're told bursary school fee nightmare for parents, and this has to do with the possibility of thousands of needy students missing out on an education, and it is turning to reality. And stakeholders are faulting the manner in which bursaries are managed. And we had a story earlier on where the Cabinet Secretary George Magoha said that those who stand in the way of 100% transition are going to be facing the law. They will be actually taken to task for failing to implement this. So I guess it's a balancing act, because at the same time there is an expense that goes into students, being taken into high schools and what have you. So how do we handle this as a nation?
I think the 100% transition is a good policy.
It's a good, yes.
It's a good policy as you continue to implement it. But you can't implement it by rungu.
Yeah.
Carrying a rungu and saying who has not done 100%. My teacher and professor, Magoha, should also go back to school to learn about communication and understanding. It's not about a rungu thing. I saw even where he's saying some sugar factories, he will shut down a sugar factory because if they don't move a school. That he should find out the language that works.
Yeah.
100% transition is a good policy, but it has to be implemented through proper funding.
Yeah.
That funding requires the constituencies, not everybody. There are enough schools so that there are enough day schools, enough secondary schools, and then each person has. But I still maintain that some people, they are so weak that continuing to take them in school is a big problem. What am I saying? There's a level of qualification if my child got. He will not go ahead. He will repeat. He will repeat. That I am very clear about. Government will tell you to continue. They'll tell you to go to Form 1. You finish.
Yeah.
Then when they want to recruit people, let's say the prison warders, they are the ones who tell you that you must have gotten 250 marks in primary. Yet you got 100 and they told you proceed. But now they tell you because you didn't get that, you are out. So there are also decisions that generally we should take as Kenyans, as parents, as guardians. So 100% transition remains a policy, but it requires funding.
Absolutely.
What I don't understand is how brilliant people would miss. We have a lot of money floating around. There's a lot of money. There's the bursary fund floating in the constituencies. There is CDA floating in the constituencies. The problem is members of parliament and people around have chosen to use it for politics. What do I mean by politics? They spread it around. 100,000 is given to about 20 people, 5,000, 5,000. And then you see a member of parliament is going around to places distributing checks. Things which ordinarily you can give a motorcycle rider and say, take this to this school, take this. So we must redo. If you look at successful bursaries, you educate a person from Form 1 to 4. The ones I have educated, the ones I'm educating, they know that I not only pay your fees from Form 1 to 4, I also support the other needs. Because even if the fees is paid and you don't have soap, it does not work well. Even if the fees is paid, you don't have books, it does not work well. So it is also our leaders, the MPs and the MCS, to stop playing politics with this money. So that in a constituency, there's some level of brilliance you can't leave. I saw a girl from this media house showing about a lady from Kisii.
Yes.
And where we were, my reaction was, I know many Kisii millionaires and billionaires. Why would they allow something like this? When who's not a millionaire has taken quite a number. And even in my village, when the KCP results came, I told them through our social platform, I told them, anybody who has gotten this or has been called to this school or this school, I'm ready. So I don't know why these billionaires, where they'll take all these monies when some of them are very old and go. Therefore, my appeal is let the MPs, please, instead of spreading the money to be popular, 3,000 here, 2,000 there, 7,000, decide that this year we are taking this number, allocate it fairly to people who are brilliant and needy. It would be better to educate one child successfully than to educate 10 halfway.
Okay. Yes. Now, still on that, there's a quote by the CS while he was speaking about the 100% transition. He said it should be done even if students are going to be learning under trees. And there's a story right here on page 5 that actually reflects a broken school that's awaiting learners after floods. And when you look at the pictures, it just brings to question the quality of education some of these students are going to get. This is a primary school, but of course, while we're doing the 100% transition, what about the schools that these kids are getting in?
Yes, up to a level, especially primary. Personally, I have no problem with
kids under trees?
Even kids under trees. Because but there is one missing link. There are no teachers.
Yeah.
So when Professor Magoha is talking, he should make sure that there are so many teachers that they can teach under tree, they can take church buildings and teach, they can take mosques and so on. Now, if he himself knows that the biggest challenge to education today is the shortage of teachers, then what is he talking about? Why is he pretending he can carry on a rungu and find out? When it comes to secondary, the way the secondary school education is structured, you can't do it under a tree. You can't do it penniless.
Yeah.
There are materials which have to be bought. There are things, infrastructure. There are even basic chemicals you use in training. You must buy them. So that when it comes to secondary school, there must be money. And money which is brought on time, not late.
Yes.
So it is good for him to breathe hot for the media.
Yes.
But when he goes back to sit in the office, let him not carry the same. Now let him face the realities on the table and see that secondary schools are different and they require money. For instance, you can't take a school and then you say, we have sent to you 1,000 students. Just ensure they learn anywhere under a tree and water. They must have a dormitory. If they are boarding school, they must have classes, they must have desks, they must have so on. We cannot have education system that just encourages desperation. Professor Magoha, please understand, desperation is not part of building this country. Put plans first, then you implement. Then we go. Before we say anything, teachers, they are not there. Bring them. We need to double, triple the number of teachers we have.
Okay.
So that is where the problem is.
Absolutely. And last but not least, there's a story on KRA, the taxman kicks out inept manager. Yes. And we're told on the top page, KRA starts purge of top manager. The agency hasn't renewed contracts of 6 officials, with more likely to follow suit as taxman moves to clean house. And obviously, it has come under scrutiny with a lot of issues with corruption and, of course, them trying to reform and ensure that the Kenyans' taxes are put to the right use and not falling through loopholes and, being taken advantage of by corrupt officials. So, do you feel this is a right move to not renew the contracts of managers?
I think generally the Kenyan market now, people are generally employed on contract.
Yeah.
These permanent and pensionable jobs, they are no longer there. So when you are employed on contract, you are given certain targets.
Yes.
And you may not meet those targets. Or somebody may not just like your face. Or somebody wants to bring somebody from home. So I really, first of all, don't think it is fair to say these are inept. Failure to have your contract renewed does not mean you are inept. There are very many reasons. But I know that KR is under a tight schedule to meet the budget by collecting taxes. So they are trying to do everything written in the book and out of the book. And part of it to appear to be doing something normally is to make personnel changes. You see, even government, you have seen, if the government is not working well, what does the president do? He has shuffled the cabinet so that people again have hope. So we think that they are doing a good job so far, tightening the news. And as they tighten the news, the Kenyans are crying because I think the most dreaded, we dread KRA more than we dread Al-Shabaab. If you are told KRA is coming, your blood pressure will go up. If you are told Al-Shabaab is downstairs, you are like... So we wish them well as they do that, but this thing that they inept, there are many reasons why contracts are not renewed. There are many. We live in Kenya. They may be corrupt, they may not be corrupt. We live in Kenya.
Yes.
I may be the boss, and I simply want my girlfriend to come in.
And
So what do I do? Because there are no extra slots, I look for yours. Then I say, Madam, the way you have been performing, the appraisal shows that the way you speak on TV, you don't smile enough, go. And then next time I bring in somebody you can tell and say, wow, hallelujah. So let's see what results it brings.
Yeah, and we're told cause for concern the missed target that you're talking about.
Yes.
Last year, the Kenya Revenue Authority collected only 1.44 trillion against an expected 1.69 trillion, forcing it to borrow 891 billion. And on Friday, the authority said it had started implementing the turnover tax for business with revenues over 5 million. So just quite a number of moves they're making to implement the report. And I think we have literally combed through all the papers. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll have more for you. We're focusing today on Luhya leaders politically and the upcoming meeting with the president, what is in store and the wrangles about it already. So stay tuned for that and more. This is Morning Express.
This is KTN News,